Welcome back. I went ahead and made a short MiG-21 video anyway just to tide me over while I'm making my Leopard 1 video that I've scheduled for next week. I also started out with aircraft content, so this works in my favor. So yeah, Leopard video next week and we'll do aircraft for today. Today we're going to talk about the MiG-21. Arguably what you could say would be the T-55 of the sky. If there's a communist nation that needed an air force, the MiG-21 was there. So today, let's take a look at the history of the balalaika. So strap in, this one's for you MiGas out there. Fortunately, the hard R is for communists only, so I cannot say the hard R. I can only say MiGa. The MiG-21's development started during the production of the MiG-19. The MiG-19 was the first aircraft that could achieve supersonic speeds and level flight. However, the MiG-19 could only achieve Mach 1.35 because of its inherent design. While the afterburning engines could give it enough thrust to go achieve supersonic flight, the intakes could not efficiently handle supersonic flow, and the swept wings proved to be unstable during supersonic flight. They also learned from the F-104 that even if your pilots have the right stuff, if the plane is a starfighter, they're going to die. So if you think about it, the Japanese kamikaze porn star was right to do that over the Lockheed bribery scandal. Because of this, work was done on two types of wings, a highly swept wing design and a delta wing design, both swept at 60 degrees and had a more rounded leading edge. Further studies resulted in the plane having a conventional tail like the MiG-19 instead of having ailerons like the F-102 Delta Dagger. The intake was also redesigned to slow down supersonic airflow when entering the engine. And it seems like the Soviet space program, the Soviet Air Force was also inspired by dogs. Hence, the new intake had a moving nose cone shaped like a dog's... lipstick. Let's say lipstick. Sukhoi opted for both wing patterns and put the delta wing design into production as the Su-9 and the swept wing design as the Su-7. On Mikoyan's side, more improvements were being made to compete with newer Western designs coming out like the Mirage 3 and the F-104 Starfighter. Sergei Tumansky, fresh from taking top spot at Okebe 300 after Alexander Mikulin was fired because someone above him had a really bad day, as Soviet careers often rely on, developed the R11-300 afterburning engine. A first-generation ejection seat was also developed for the fighter. The initial prototypes of the MiG-21 were called the Ye, which were short for Kanye, the lead designer of the MiG-21 program. The Ye-2 was a swept-wing design which used the Mikulin AM-11 engine as a placeholder with a redesigned nose cone. Once the R11-300 was completed, it was mounted on the Ye-2, accompanied with the redesigned parts, and was renamed the Ye-2A. Initially, the Ye-2A was called the MiG-23 when it entered low-rate production of 5 aircraft. It had 3 30mm NR-30 guns, the Sirena 2 RWR, and could carry bombs and rockets. Because of the looming threat of the Lockheed U-2 spy plane and its high-altitude capability that SAM system couldn't reach at the time, a variant of the Ye-2 as a high-altitude interceptor known as the Ye-50 was tested with S-155 rocket boosters above the R11-300 turbojet engine. Carried 2 30mm guns, a fire control radar, and provisions to carry the K-5 radar missiles, which were in development at the time. The delta wing origin of the MiG-21 draws its roots from the Ye-4 prototype. It was more or less a carbon copy of the Ye-2, but with delta wings. It had 3 NR-30s, could drop bombs, fire rockets, and had Sirena 2 RWR, but still used the RD-9 turbojet engine. Eventually, wing fences were added to the Ye-4. The Ye-5 was a Ye-4 with a Tumansky R11-300 turbojet engine, which was refined to the Ye-6 standard and finally became the MiG-21F, with the F standing for fucking finally, because I know how long you've been waiting there for me to get to the actual MiG-21s, and boy, let me tell you, so did the Soviets. Entering service in 1959, the MiG-21F had two NR-30 guns with 60 rounds each. Around this time, an AIM-9 Sidewinder decided to defect to China during the Taiwan Strait crisis. Hitching a ride on a Shenyang J-5 back to China, the Soviets sent over 30 experts to check out the missile, and by November they were ordered to copy the Sidewinder. The first AIM-9 copies were tested on a MiG-19 PT, and when the success of the tests were reported, it was pressed into service as the R3S or K-13 and was intended to be mounted on the MiG-21, which earned the designation MiG-21 F-13 and lost one of its two NR-30 guns. The interceptor version of the MiG-21F was known as the MiG-21 PF. The forward intake was redesigned and a larger shock cone and inlet was mounted to fit a new radar, which was known as the RP-21 or the Sapphire. This deleted the 30mm gun, and for a while, the MiG-21 interceptors lacked a gun. The MiG-21 PF was exported to East Germany and modified as the MiG-21 PFM, different from the Soviet MiG-21 PFM that was also exported to Germany, but instead of calling it the MiG-21 PFM in East Germany, they just called it the MiG-21 SPSK. Soviet aircraft designations are a nightmare, and I have an entire video written about it that I've debated on whether I should make or upload. So if you want to see that video, you could tell me in the comments, because Soviet aircraft designations are a nightmare, and I could go all day about it. Anyways, the PFM had a removable 23mm Gish 23-2 under the fuselage, under what is called a gondola, or a pod, which would become permanent on the MiG-21 MF and SM models and later. The RP-21 was upgraded to the RP-22 and guided a new form of missile called the R3R, which was a semi-active radar homing variant of the R3, the same way the AIM-9C was to the AIM-9B. Aircraft with the upgraded RP-22 radar were designated the MiG-21S. The new aircraft received the new Tumansky R-13 engine, and the RWR was upgraded to the SP-010. Existing MiG-21Ms in Warsaw Pact service were upgraded to the standard and was called the MiG-21 MF. The new engine used up more fuel, and a rework to the fuel tank was done on Soviet aircraft. A larger dorsal spine for more fuel was installed and was designated the MiG-21 SMT. The MiG-21's last big upgrade happened in the late 1960s when Okebe 300 and Sergei Tumansky completed the final derivative of the R-11 engine, the R-25. This led to a redesign of the SMT's fuselage for flight performance, and the R-25 engine provided the highest thrust rating for any of the MiG-21 variants. New ILS systems and GCI systems were added, the Polyot and the Lazur. The VVS received the Polyot because VVS pilots don't know how to land, and the PVO received the Lazur because the PVO pilots can't intercept for shit. Translators note the VVS was the Soviet Air Force and the PVO was the Soviet Air Defense Force. I don't want to go deeply into their roles, but the Air Force were more focused on general Air Force duties like supporting ground forces, air superiority, and whatnot, while air defense were focused on intercepting bombers and all that. So, yeah, that's why the PVO pilots preferred the Lazur, because it was a GCI system that was pretty effective for intercepting. Anyways, by the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia tried to offer one last upgrade to the MiG-21 called the MiG-21-93. The upgrade replaces the radar with a Kopia radar used in the Su-39, which the Su-39 has in a pod, to allow it to fire the R-77 missile. The R-73 was also integrated as a replacement for the R-60. Almost half of the world used MiG-21s in some form or fashion. India, one of the first customers of the MiG-21, upgraded their MiG-21s in the pattern of the MiG-21-93 and called it the MiG-21 UPG Bison. Romania is also another notable manufacturer of upgrades for the MiG-21, collaborating with Israeli Aerospace Industries to upgrade their MiG-21 MF into the MiG-21 MF Lancer. This upgrade was patterned from the MiG-21 2000 upgrade program developed by IAI independently. It could fire the Python 3 missile as well as the R-60 and use the Elbit Dash helmet-mounted sight system. The ground attack version of the Lancer, or the Lancer A, could use the Lightning Pod guiding Mark 82 bombs with the Lizard guidance kit, and could also drop the Ophir IR guided bombs. Egypt-operated MiG-21 MFs, one of which were transferred to China and was the basis of the J-7 and the J-7D. We'll talk about the J-7s and the Chinese on a separate video, but I did have a video already about the J-7, so if you want to watch that, I could put that at the end of the video. The United States also operated the MiG-21 with the 4477th Test and Evaluation Squadron. The MiG-21 F-13 and MiG-21 MF were known as the YF-110B and YF-110D. The US acquired the MiG-21 F-13 from Indonesia in 1968 and the MiG-21 MF from Egypt in the 1980s. Outside of the United States, Cuba is the only operator of the MiG-21 in North and South America. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this essay as I did writing it. This was a short video to tide us over while I finish the Leopard 1 video. This is the Dr. MD, and as always, thank you for watching.